Welcome back to Thrive, your go-to channel for transforming health, revolutionizing indoor air quality, and visionary environments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below to let us know your thoughts.
Hey, good afternoon, scholars. Just nice to see you all here and for this satellite event, as we called it, and we'll try to come up with ideas, lots of ideas. I already lots of ideas, and I'm sure that after she was this drinks, we there outside will have even more ideas. What we could do, we could introduce ourselves, but in this sitting arrangement, it probably would be a bit kind of awkward. But what I hope is that after these presentations, and then when we move to the tables behind, that's where after we grab dinner, and I imagine then this is dinner, we'll talk here, we'll have an opportunity to make sure that everybody knows each other. So this is the plan. And we have slides there, which I hope, or you can see the slides. So we'll start with QT acknowledgement. QT acknowledges the Thurl and Yovera as the First Nations owners of the lands where QT now stands. We pay our respects to their elders, laws, customs, and created spirits. We recognize that these lands have always been bases of teaching, research, and learning. So our plan today is such, this is the agenda. So we've had this arrival welcome, and now we'll have a few quick kind of speeches. I will start with introducing what is this idea, what we are planning to do. Then we have several motivational speakers which have more ideas and examples what can be done. And then we will all discuss what we can do together. So it is here planned at around 6 o'clock. Dinner will be served at 6:30. So we can start talking, we can grab dinner, we can come back here around the table. So we'll basically see how we go. Any questions about anything to start with? Is ventilation turned on here? It's CO2 monitor is there, but I can't see what is going on.
550, Lydia.
550, so it means that the button has been pressed. That's something we always need to remember, and we need to then remember to check here it doesn't say so off.
Turn it simple.
All right, so within this group, I don't need to say this, but basically this is start for any discussion about pillars of public health. Water. Do we ever think for a moment about the quality of water we drink? We grab water from the tap. It's clean. It's not going to do us any harm. Food. We go to the supermarket. We ever check whether, apart from checking whether it's not pasteurized, we don't worry about any contaminants in the food because we know that it's healthy, it won't do us harm. Air quality, outdoor air quality. It is like water and food is regulated. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's always clean. There are episodes that it's not, but if it's not, actions are taken. We know that it is regulated. What about indoor air? Well, anything can be in indoor air, and no one will know about this. It's not regulated. If this button wasn't pressed, or if there was a fault, our facilities management for a while, starting for quite a long time, didn't know that there is a problem. All right, so if we compare the situation between outdoor and indoor air quality standards, For outdoor air, we have two types of regulations, emission standards and air quality performance standards, with over 200 stations across Australia. One could say, why do we need to monitor air? Why do we need performance standards if every car which is brought to Australia has to meet the standards? All the industries, all the power plants and so on must meet the emission standards. So air is clean. Why do we need performance standards and put efforts in monitoring? Yet we do this, and we find out often that there are problems. In relation to indoor air, however, we have, of course, national construction codes. Very good. But what about performance standards? We don't have performance standards, which means there's no monitoring whatsoever. Basically, whatsoever. Well, why is this? There are some gaps in science and technology we can't do it because of this gaps? Well, as a scientist, I'll always say that there's plenty of new science which we can generate, and we will understand with working with you all. But really, we have enough science, enough knowledge and technologies to make our buildings healthy, to use it. So we can use it. All right, so what to do? Why can't we just simply mandate it in our air quality? Is there the problem? Just simple. With science and technology, we know that it's necessary. It's a huge problem of the size, basically, of Mount Everest. And just a few issues are listed there, but we could list many more. Political will, who is responsible, who pays the initial cost, how to start, and the list can keep going and going. So between setting the standards and meeting the standards is that Mount Everest we have to go, and that's what I'm learning more and more as I'm trying, and we are trying to influence crossing this Mount Everest. There's a reflection in relation to science. So we have science, why don't we implement science? The reflection is thinking about many situations where science was there, where humanity knew that there's a problem and nothing happened. And the key example for me is asbestos. So we already knew during Roman times that asbestos is a problem. Still didn't get to the bottom who exactly said there's a statement about not buying slaves who worked in asbestos mine because they die young, but that was known that it is a problem. So it took us how long? 2 millennia to fix it. In Australia, it was only in 2003. In the last issue of the Scientific American, which I'm just reading, there is a little column about that in the US. It was kind of introduced, I don't know all the background to regulation, but it is now, it is still being, not discussed, but still being, so 2,000 years. I really hope that we will not need thousands of years before we'll have clean indoor air. So, how to start this climb over this mountain, Mount Everest? Well, first of all, translating science for regulations, and that's what we are doing. That's our role. That's the example of which we are very proud. Our science paper with saying how to do it. That's blueprint. But this is only part of this climb. Building awareness in all sectors of the society. Knocking at the doors of power, as I call it. Now, some of you are part of this power, or helping part of this power, how to describe this. These are two events which took place. The first one in March last year, cleaner forum in the Parliament House. That was really quite amazing. It was interesting. It was called Clean Air Forum. I think we, or the organizers, were really shy to say clean indoor air forum. It was Clean Air Forum. Well, that shine is disappeared this year. In the March Parliament event, it was clearly stated, clean indoor air forum. So that's this. But then, starting the actual climb in small steps. We should do all this in parallel. It's not in succession, starting the small climb in the small steps. And this is why we are here, to think how collectively we can do it. The steps, as I see it, which is small steps supported by science. Idea, lots of ideas we can have. Does science support it? And I'll make in a moment say what it means. Implementation, assessing the work, and then publicizing it such that others can use this as a model. Now, these ideas, what we can do, what different organizations, and we represent here many different organizations, there could be lots of ideas what we could do together. And that's what I'm hoping, that our speakers will put some other examples, because there are many different examples. One example, whether it's kind of on the boundary of we are doing as organizations, for me, was our work on emissions from printers. Just by a chance, and that was quite a long time ago, it is money. Well, that is. We just discovered by a chance that in one of the government buildings, just 200, 300 meters from here, we worked very closely with the government and our partner in one of the projects. The issue was that they worried that the emissions from the freeway next to the building would have an impact on the air quality within the building. So they wanted us to check that was not part of the project. And I said, well, right, we'll do this because we are working together, but it will be something particularly interesting. And then we found out this huge peaks every so often, which we couldn't attribute to anything happening. So we searched the whole building. The initial idea was it must be some combustion emissions. I would say somebody somewhere smoking something or whatever. Searched the whole building, nothing like this. But eventually we realized that this was due to printer emissions. So, okay, so this was a very interesting discovery, and there was lots of this was happening. Now, this was not part of our project. We didn't have funds for this, but we thought we need to look into this deeper. So we set up a whole group of colleagues, worked on this. So indeed, we then in a laboratory experiments indoors, measurements in the building, we confirmed the printers, and eventually what was causing this, and then we realized this was quite complex measurements to measure temperature inside the printer, and we realized this were emissions of VOCs from during printing, and this they caused the formation of the sparklers. Okay, so we put effort in finding this, but what next? And then we put a lot of effort in publicizing this, to the media, and then when eventually the paper was published, it was such a media piece that the industry has to take notice of this. And I was told by our colleagues in Germany to close work with the industry. That was in August, so in some industry representatives were called back from Solidarity in case. 10 years later, we repeat this, such measurements here in Brisbane, but also with our colleagues in Italy. Emissions from desktop printers reduced significantly, basically, which is not the issue. So this was our action. On the other hand, I've example of some jurisdictions during the pandemic in a goodwill buying large numbers of air purifiers and distributing them to schools. And so it was really en masse. And then I said to myself, reading out the scale of this, I said, this will lead to a huge amount of electronic junk. Why? because there was no testing done. Did the school need this? What was air pollution in the school? What was the situation in the clinics? What type of air purifiers? If they are noisy, they were not going to be. So there was no education for teachers what to do. Well, anecdotally, I've heard, and it's not only in Australia, but overseas as well, that in many situations sprinklers were not used. So this is an example of an initiative which had good intentions, but if it had been done properly with the support of science, it would achieve something much better. So
Other behavior. That is other people. Once it's. Ice mic has gone off.
So this is the last slide. That's our goal to make clean, healthy indoor air. So coming up with ideas, what we can do together, what in the small steps, ideas of what your art organizations need, would like to do. We can discuss this, how Anders right, we can take it up. We can take it up as part of our projects. We have many projects. We can test it, we can make sure that it's scientifically sound, and then based on this, we can take the next step. So this is basically the idea.